NBA player props here on PrizePicks for Wednesday, May 3rd. Before I get started, there is a link in the description below to sign up for PrizePicks, or you can use promo code TUFF. 100% deposit match. We get the Discord link in the description. Discord is popping, you guys. Make sure you guys go check that out. Main server is completely free. We do also have the Patreon link in the description where I post all the plays here that I'm making on PrizePicks with full deep dive analysis write-ups. So go and check out that link as well. Again, I'm not a gambling expert, and this is not financial advice at all. These are simply just plays I'm personally looking at making, just sharing them with you guys, sharing my research with you guys, hopefully to help you guys make your own player prop decisions here. But let's get right into it, you guys. I got two plays. We only got the one game on the NBA slate today. We got Boston, Philly in the crucial game 2 here in Boston. Looks like Joel Embiid's going to play. I think there was some value last night before Embiid came out and said he was going to play in this game, obviously with the 76ers props as well, if you took some unders on those. But a lot of props have dropped. I mean, James Harden was at 24.5 points. I think Tyrese Maxey was at 25.5 points. So, again, there's always value late night on PrizePicks, in my opinion, when the plays first drop on the board. But nonetheless, I think the lines have adjusted with Joel Embiid playing. This should be a very close and interesting game here. It looks like Marcus Smart's also questionable. I know he got hurt. He was hitting that chest or in the rib. So I guess it's in question, which would obviously increase the usage of these guys down here. But yeah, let's not waste any time, you guys. Let's just get right into it. So the first play I'm targeting here is going to be James Harden. And I think with Embiid back, I like his over 8 assists. Now, at 8, I think insane push potential. I think great push potential at 8. If this was at 7.5, I think it would be a smash play. But at 8 for James Harden, I do like the push potential here. You can see here in 2 of his last 5 games, he's hit the over on this. In that Brooklyn series, he had 11, 4, 7, and 13. Again, some of these games weren't really competitive. And just kind of the way schematically the Brooklyn Nets were playing Joel Embiid. They were doubling Joel Embiid a ton. So it didn't really allow James Harden to get to his spots as far as getting assists go, because a lot of maybe 3 to 4 assists per game go to Joel Embiid off the pick and roll. But we take a look at James Harden's game log this season when he logs 36 plus minutes, including the playoffs. So in that game 1, he had 6 assists, again without Joel Embiid. It took 30 field goal attempts. He's obviously not going to take 30 field goal attempts in this game. But you can see the hit rate, you guys, this season when he plays 36 plus minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 of his last 13 games when he plays 36 plus minutes, he has hit the over on this. I mean, just even dating back to January 14th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 19 of 5, so what is that? 19 of 24 games when he plays 36 plus minutes, you guys. He has hit the over on this. We know James Harden loves to get his teammates involved. Was in the top 4 of NBA potential assists this season. We take a look at James Harden's game log this season versus the Celtics. Again, 6 assists in game 1. Had 10 assists here, 8 assists here, 11 assists here, and 7 assists here. So he's had at least 6 assists in every game, and has pushed this line or cleared this line in 3 of 5 games. And it has a pretty decent hit rate, right, against Boston this season. The way Boston kind of plays defense as well, they are kind of affected, and they're not very great against ISO scores and just isolation. So if James Harden gets players in isolation, if they do come and double him, he will be well equipped to set up some teammates for passes. So with Joel Embiid on the floor this season, James Harden averages 10.8 assists per game per 36 minutes. I think it's very safe to say he's going to play 36 minutes tonight. Obviously, the Philly, they stole game 1, but if Joel Embiid's back here, if they could steal game 2, this series will get very, very interesting if they can go ahead and steal game 2. So he averages 10.8 potential assists with Joel Embiid on the floor. If we take Joel Embiid off the floor here, so keep that number in mind, you guys, 10.8 assists with Joel Embiid. When Joel Embiid's off the floor, that number drops to 9.6. So he averages significantly more, 1.2 more assists per game with Joel Embiid on the floor this season. But still, per 36, he still averages more assists than what this line is at 8. Right? I honestly, when Joel Embiid announced he was going to play, I thought this line was going to be at 9, or maybe even at least 8.5 at minimum. So I think we get solid push potential here at 8. We take a look at the odds here. For James Harden, he's at 8.5 on every sports book, so maybe this does have a chance to bump up. He's at even odds here on FanDuel to go over 8.5, so I do think we get some decent push potential here as far as the odds go. The over is at over has hit in 9 of 15 times when this line is set at 8 flat. We take a look at some potential assists as well. James Harden, in the 4 games versus Boston this season prior to the last playoff game, he had 15.5 potential assists on average and averaged 9 assists per game. We also take a look at James Harden last game. Without Joel Embiid, he still had 10 potential assists, had 6 assists of those, 55 passes made, played 39.4 minutes. So obviously, I mean, the potential assists are going to go up. You know, if you watch basketball and you watch the 76ers play this season, you know James Harden gets so many assists to Joel Embiid off that pick and roll. And I definitely think, you know, kind of the way the Celtics play defense as well with that drop coverage should allow James Harden to get some assists here, as he's obviously had success against them this season. So I like James Harden over 8 assists here. I do think this has a small chance to bump up to 8.5, but with Joel Embiid back, I like the over on this a lot. So, I mean, and also keep in mind, you guys, with the last game, I think this was at 8.5 without Joel Embiid. So, like, I mean, James Harden, in my opinion, his assist percentage has to go up with Joel Embiid on the floor. The scoring champion, the MVP on the floor with him. It doesn't make sense. So I like 8 assists over for James Harden. The other play I like here is going to be Jaylen Brown. And I did like his 33.5 PRA, but this line did bump. So I am going to pivot, and I do like his over 37.5 fantasy score here tonight against Philly. Now, in game 1, you know, I think we had on Patreon, I believe, we had his over 24.5 points, and he took 10 field goal attempts in that game and still finished with 23. He took 10 field goal attempts, and it was pretty frustrating. That was the lowest amount of field goal attempts that he's taken, like, all season, or the second lowest amount of field goal attempts he's taken all season long, like the entire season, like all 82 plus the playoff games. He's never taken that many field goal attempts or that little of field goal attempts. So I definitely think he comes back and he gets aggressive. Even Joe Mazzulla said at the end of the last game that they want to come out and get, you know, Jaylen Brown more shots and get him into his spots, specifically on the floor, to get him aggressive and get him going. This is a must-win game for Boston here, but we can see here over his last 4 or 5 games, he's hit this in 3 of his last 5, but he only took 10 field goal attempts, you guys, and he still finished last game with 35.2 fantasy, which is really just goes to show you the kind of games that Jaylen Brown can have in this series, and that kind of the matchup problems that he presents against the 76ers. So I definitely think insane that he only took 10 field goal attempts here. We take a look at his fantasy score game log this season when he logs 37 plus minutes. All right, this is just the season during the regular season, right? I mean, we can include the playoffs here. Let's include the playoffs here just to show you guys what this looks like here. So in the playoffs, when he plays 37 plus minutes, he's hit this line in 1, 2, 3. This is including the regular season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 of like 20. I don't even know. Look at the hit rate, guys. Look at this column here. Look how many times he's hit over 37.5. Right, but just take a look at this. He takes 10 field goal attempts in game 1, and look at the rest of his field goal attempts from every other game when he plays 37 plus minutes. 25, 23, 22, 23, 29, 25, 18, 26, 25, 27, 15, 24, 21, 22, 23, 22, 23. It just doesn't make sense that he took that little of field goal attempts, only 10, and he shot 80%. How does a guy go 8 for 10 and only take 10 field goal attempts and you guys lose? So I definitely think Jaylen Brown bounces back. I think he takes 20-plus field goal attempts tonight. He made that 35 fantasy points with only taking 10 field goal attempts. I think this line not moving to 37.5, it's just one of those plays here where he missed it, but if you dissect the game, you know, I think PrizePicks, I don't know how they do their lines, but, like, you know, you have to kind of expect Jaylen Brown to clear this line tonight, right? In a must-win game for Philly when he only took 10 field goal attempts. We take a look at his fantasy score game log this season against against Philadelphia. He's hit this line already twice against Philly. 40.3 fantasy back here on February 25th, 46.6 fantasy back in the beginning of the season. Had only 8.9 fantasy here when he only played 18 minutes. I think he got injured in this game here. And then this should have been an over, you guys. He played 42 minutes and took 10 field goal attempts, like I said, 35.2 fantasy. Jaylen Brown this season at home per 36 minutes, which is what we're going to see him play tonight. 31.9% usage rate, 40.7 fantasy points with a 1.1 fantasy points per minute for Jaylen Brown. We take a look at his fantasy points per minute over the course of the whole season. He is averaging 1.14 fantasy points per minute over the course of the whole season. And then we take a look at his PRA odds. I'm just going to refresh this real quick here to see if these lines have bumped at all. Yeah, he's at minus 148 to go over 33.5 PRA. So, I mean, that line bumped crazy pretty fast here at 34. But I think we get great value here. 37.5 fantasy has yet to bump. And we're only seeing a 3.5 point discrepancy between the PRA and the 37.5 fantasy score here for Jaylen Brown. But insane odds. Minus 148. He's minus 230 to go over 31.5 PRA. I mean, just overall consensus odds over 33.5 PRA. Minus 148. So we'll just say he conservatively gets only 34 PRA here. That is only a 3.5 point difference to his fantasy score line, right? And we can expect Jaylen Brown to maybe get some steals and blocks and things like that. We take a look at his kind of his stocks against the 76ers. He's at 1, 2, what is this? 4, 5, 6, 7 stocks in 4 games against them this season, and then just games when he plays 37 plus minutes. You can see here the defensive stats are there. I mean, he has the ability to get defensive stats as well. So these are the 2 plays here for this YouTube video. I like James Harden over 8 assists, Jaylen Brown over 37.5 fantasy score. Obviously, the only one game here on the slate today. Let me know in the comments below if you guys plan on tailing these props. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.